Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, know nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live or listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live or listens in the replay. It's always a beautiful thing when we get to engage. And this is the vault episode 224 S Corps and multiple series LLCs and Holding Co. And so we'll repeat that again. It is the Vault episode 224, S Corp, multiple series, LLCs, and Holding Co. And so this is a critical episode because so many people, we've even had, you know, conversations today with people that are still debating about this small subject. And this is a big subject. It is so big. This has been a question from the beginning of trustee training for people that went through the program and still is to this day, which is S corps and multiple series LLCs and holding codes. What's the difference? You know, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about it from the entrepreneur investor perspective today. And so this is a critical episode because so many people ask these questions. Well, should we have this? Should we have that? When we get people talking about structures and things like that on whether it's the public or private side, because these are conversations you can have with your constituents, and we have these conversations. And so, S corp, which is almost null and void. There's no one on the private side using an S corp. If they are, I mean, when we say that, that's a general statement. But, ladies and gentlemen, on the private sector, why would you be using an S corp? They're one of the newer entities that have been created. But then we got these people with multiple series LLCs. They're trying to. You don't even understand some of the words that are considered almost illegal to speak in the public because people just don't feel comfortable with saying those terms. But the multiple LLCs, I mean, when you think about people say, oh, it's owning multiple LLCs, one LLC is owning a bunch of multiple LLCs, what difference does it make? It's still a smaller entity. It's not private. We can address this in this conversation, which we will. And in the holding co, everybody tries to say, or quite a few people say, "Oh well, the LLC is a holding co, and it's holding other companies, but it's not the parent position yet, because I'm starting out here." It's like, okay, you're explaining every other basic format for what a multiple series either looks like, or when people are doing these holding codes, and it's just like, really, you're doing a holding co. Some people say, well, what is a holding company? They literally are trying to say that that's what they have, and it's like, okay, so you have that. You have a entity that you're a so-called manager over or something. That's what these people are saying is they are tied to these S corps or multiple series LLCs, holding codes. These are public entities on the public side. So we see a lot of major players that don't run out of a particular of a what they call a S corp. But why is it that we get so many people come to the vault? Consultations by the daily. Oh, well, should we have the LLC or should we not have the LLC? Ladies and gentlemen, look at all the Fortune 500 companies. Are they operating through an LLC or S corp or C corp? Most of them are public entities. They're incorporated, not limited liability. So since we know that, these entities are made for smaller vehicles, and that's not good. It's not. The S doesn't stand for small business. It's just a letter they came up with. So if it has some type of tie to that, that doesn't necessarily have to be that. Bottom line, the S corp, you got to ask. And this is where we have to address this issue for what it's worth. We are not posing as an attorney. We're not an attorney. You are a trustee. When you get in trustee training, you learn that you hired the lawyers. When you enroll in trustee training, you know that you hired the accountants. So when your accountant comes to you, the one that you supposedly hired, comes to you and says, I can't do something, that's when we have to question him. How aggressive is he on helping us save money? What are you around for, buddy? You're here to just file paperwork? That shouldn't cost more than a couple $100. But instead, people get taken for thousands of dollars every single year in these entities in particular because Why? We've had lawyers and events brag on making their clients pay. How? Who brags on their clients to, oh, we only got them down to 90K? Really? That's interesting. That's interesting to see for sure. So we're gonna move over to what people know we should be in, and it's definitely not the public side unless that's something that you choose. So for everyone that's moving with this holding co, because so many people come to the vote and they got this holding co, and it's like a holder of like multiple ones. Like, do you see how the logic is? They have a minor entity, an LLC or a C corp. We won't say C corp necessarily, but you see S corp. We see we're only addressing these measly entities because we literally had a lawyer, an accountant say they can't switch it back for a whole year. It's like, are you serious? First of all, it's a state created entity. A S corp is a federal elected entity. People know this. You can call, but most people get someone else to file for them. This is the education that people would say is lacking. The S corp. You know how many people have gone back to the private side and let them go? There's no major corp utilizing them. So some people say, oh man, you're going to run into what we're addressing on this episode. So just be aware that when you go back to your accountant, your lawyer, since you hired them, it's good to have a team for all of these multiple things that these people supposedly are running. And it's just like, really? You guys are interesting, to say that, you have this holding company. Because then we get to the last one, which will be the holding company. So many people say, oh, I have a holding company. It's like, really? Who owns it all? Do you? It's just, it's interesting because that's what the S corp supposedly takes away is the ownership, right? And that's why they get in them. And then they get whacked with a 1040 or some type of other number. So we know that this is business. The S corp is one of those entities that we can see that was just, it's just like, think about the terms that we even have in the title, multiple series LLCs. You know how many people come to us and say that they have a LLC, literally, like, they'll say, oh, I have an LLC that owns multiple LLCs. It's like, really? Okay. What does that mean? Like, who owns it all? That's all that matters. It doesn't matter if one or two are off. Sure, you have five businesses owned by one entity. It's a person. The S corp is the same thing. So this is where we just get into moving into what is an S corp. And most people don't have a lot of evidence on that. They don't have a lot of case law on that. And that's why a lot of old school lawyers don't use them. We talk to old school lawyers, and it's not that they'll give you whatever you want, but they're just not utilizing those things. They're really helping people get what they need, and particularly LLCs are working well, and as well, C corps do really well. Um, and when we look at the multiple series LLCs, that's what you see when you see like a alphabet A, alphabet B, alphabet C. That's what is that? It's multiple trusts together. They're not multiple LLC in it. They're multiple trusts in it. And there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, they're in the proper position. They're going to be the private holding company for a few generations. It's very easy now. Why? Because they already went in trust. They gave up ownership. See, people are going to have to do that with their so-called government name or their public side. And that's where they're going to have to do that. How many people really want to give up that position? We talked to trustees recently. We heard that it resonated with them this past trustee training call Sunday. It was an amazing trustee training call. And they were like, yeah, you really questioned us and asked us, are we living a trustee life for the next generation or are we living it for ourselves? And what's so funny is actually senior trusteeship, we laugh at this question because it literally is a funny question because think about what are you really leaving your kids? If you're going to be selfish in this generation right now, you probably could do that. If you really wanted to be selfish in this generation, you could be selfish because think about it. When you have a policy on your head for a few $1 million, okay, the family's left well in your stead. As soon as you leave, they have a $2 million policy coming to them. They have $1 million policy coming to them. They have a $500,000 policy. You don't need to leave them, of course, $1 billion. Of course, they might do. You don't know your child's complete intent. That's why these guys are afraid to leave their children money. The guys that say that they're not giving their children money. So it's you think about it. Would you give yourself at 20 years old, $500 billion? It's these type of mind games that people are playing with themselves when it comes to holding capital. So how are people holding capital properly in the S corp? Where are we going with that? Are you holding well in the private S corp? Not at all, because you're not dealing with private S corps. If that's the case, go get a private S corp. If it was so easy, right? Because they're irrelevant to the conversation of privacy. We're talking about contracts in the private, whereas in the public, there's definitely S corps, definitely S corps. And then you got the what? Multiple series LLCs, and then you got the what? Holding companies, public or private. So we're not saying that this is the all and be all. What we're saying is these are the ones that we get common questions. We're addressing these for the people that said, hey, I got a consultation, but I need more. This is it. You can either be on the chat live right now, or did you miss the pop up, or did you get it in the replay? And so you can feel free to type it in the chat when it comes to this subject. These different entities that people are in. If you know you're in an ownership position, then you know you're in a liability position. And that's what people really get is they know they're like, oh wow, they're cringing. They're like, man, I actually am in a liable position. And it's like, right, so what are you gonna do about it? It's so and so even today when we had a conversation with a trustee, they said my lawyer said they can't. That means you're fired. Oh no. What do you mean? I'm hurting Uncle Joe's feelings? Yeah, you might be hurting Uncle Joe's feelings. Or, oh no, I'm hurting my neighbor's friend. I'm hurting my neighbor's friend. We're done. Can't is a word for won't. That's why you have to ask your lawyers how aggressive are they. Every lawyer's not aggressive. Oh yeah. What do you mean, Trust Christian? Yeah, your lawyers are aggressive, just like you are. They're gonna make sure that you win the case, not sit back on their heels and play a defense. The best defense is offense. See, these are old time adages, but guess what? They actually apply in law. So we're not counting our days for number. We're making our days count. So as we move into, this episode going deeper and deeper, S corps are so many people come to the table with them. Same thing with the multiple series LLCs. They're all public. We know this now. We said this a few times, and we haven't really went to the other ones because what when people there's so many people that may be sitting in a room, and there may be many that are already in S corp and they're PO'd. They're like, my accountant said I can't switch it back for a whole year. It's like, okay, well, what happens when you get a new partner that comes into business with you right now and they say, we need to switch up the entity? What's wrong with that? You can go apply for that at any moment. Why is he dragging his heels? Oh no, he's dragging his heels. He said, I can't do that till next year. Why wouldn't you just put in the paperwork right now? I need it done right now, actually. I'm bringing on a new partner. How are you going to accept a new partner in an improper position? That's why you don't want to partner with somebody in the private. And guess what? The private's not feeling bad for you either. The private's not begging for public liabilities. Be aware of that. So when people in the private say, oh, I'm testing the waters, I'm trying to see how it plays out. See how what plays out? The life of failure and misery? 97% failure rate? Oh, they don't want to know the statistics, do they? No. What do you mean? S corp, who's it passing the liability on? We already know for the ones that are already in it. We're talking the ones that don't want to be. The ones that say, man, I'm getting hit right now. I'm getting slammed. See, it's called the proper positioning. And a lot of people know even about the multiple series because that's what they're trying to do. They're like, okay, well, what if I just get a C or LLC or even S corp or a multiple series LLC to own multiple companies? Isn't that how people think? See, we can address these lay conversations because this is the conversation we've heard from even Europeans that come over from Europe and they're in the American market and they're using American trustees. What are you doing, doofus? You're from a foreign country and you're utilizing American trustees. Why? Because you have no sense. You don't understand jurisdiction completely, and they don't want to be held liable for people's failure. Right, because they're not lawyers. But there are lawyers that won't even come over and touch America. We know this. Most people in America are dealing with American lawyers, not dealing with the foreigners. So let's keep it moving. We went past the S court. Now we're moving on to the multiple series LLC. This is the one where people say, okay, I got a LLC. That we're gonna get specific now, because the first one addressed that people want to just run out of the Passover, that the pass through. That's what they call it. I have a pass through. Who's it passing the liability on to? Right. So the multiple series LLC. This is a common question. Oh, trust Christian, what is going on? I got a company. It's supposed to own multiple companies. That's how it's being? Okay. Where do you come in to owning any of these companies? Usually they have an organizer. Are you the organizer? A lot of people would ask you that question on the private side, or they're going to ask you that on the public side. A lawyer's going to say, "Hey, who's the owner of the company? Who's the organizer?" They might amalgamate those terms to you, and so this is where we get back to the basics. We hire the attorneys, we hire the lawyers as a trustee or whatever man or whatever position. You have to have something to stand in position. Some people, they try to go against the lawyers, but that just means you have a bad one. Let's just be real here. There are some lawyers that never lose cases for certain things. They're called specialists. When we need real estate lawyers, you get a real estate lawyer. When you need different things, you get those people. A title company is not the same as a real estate company. When you're dealing with real estate, you're dealing also with a title company. Make sure your title's clear. These are some of the due diligence processes. So, we wanted to do this episode for sure because we had a question come us today about, oh, well, the accountant said we got to wait till next year. It's like, okay, so you're going to wait till next year? Thanks for running into a wall, and then how you get over it. You got to climb it sometimes. So, your climbing skill comes in handy. The multiple series LLC says, okay, we're in a position now where somebody wants to, like okay, Alphabet A owns Google, and then Google supposedly owns YouTube, but they're still all in Alphabet A. Do you see? So okay, you don't really know the owners of the company, but it's not an LLC, and you all know that because they're real hard entities. And so nowadays we're not going to move directly to the holding company, but you can see how that would transverse out. You would see how that would play out. Multiple series LLCs. This is where people start doing these different terms. We don't even want to name them because it's just those words that nowadays they put tabs out there. Because why do you want to be known for having the elite movement when it comes to dealing with things? It's like we're not on the internet parroting off what the mentor said in the meeting. It's what is tried, true, and tested in trustee training. When you think about being trained by a mentor, you have to have some type of format in the classroom setting where there's students and you can learn off each other. This is the power of learning off each other. So, the multiple series LLCs, that means you have multiple entities owning multiple entities that might own some more multiple entities. Now, you see how we said keyword is you. When it ties back to you, that means that you own it. So, in turn, how is that beneficial? We see that that might be a limiting position. That's why they call it a limited liability corporation, because it's not full, it's limited. So we know this. So we still see that it's in the title. And these are things that a lot of people run through when they try to get at higher levels, but that's because they're still on the public side. So we move into the holding co. which a lot of people want to have, is considered to be just we could say on the private side that it's just a contract and it's private, but on the public side, it would be more of a holding co. Once again, looks like that C co. That's like, or that incorporated. That's big, and it looks like as well the alphabet A and the alphabet B. It's just, and you might see it that way. You might see something hold title and something hold equity. Traditionally, at that level, you see multiple things going on, and that's the way the game is played at that level. It's no. Some people say, well, how does it start out that way? Of course, they were funded by VCs. VCs made sure that the contract was set up immediately the right way, and so whether that's holding co or multiple series, once again, it's set up with that level of execution. It's set up with it being where you're actually consulting on how that contract should be put together. So when we talk about the lawyers and accounts, yes, you hired them, but you have to be specific in your work for hire. You have to let them know what specifically needs to be in the terms. Is that powerful in a limiting contract such as the S, where it's just put pretty much a pass through? Like, the overall arching principle of it. You know how it flows. Where the money goes, the money goes. And so that's why the records of the company shows that you're the owner. And guess what? Ownership incurs liability. So that's why people are moving away from, even trying to get all these fancy things. And a lot of the old guard lawyers are putting them through on basic entities, LLCs, C Corps. Hey, do the S Corp. Yeah, I rarely see any online companies doing the S Corps. Maybe they do the S Corps, but for the most part, that's something you have to go to like someone specific. And it's like really wild because it's like, dude, didn't you switch them over to that in the first place? It's like, yeah, then I need you to get on the paperwork today. You actually need to put in that right now. Like, go ahead and fill out the application because you put them in a position like, and how can they brag about it? They're the lawyers. But you're right, they're the lawyers. Think about it. Lawyers don't even cost the same thing in different states. So, it's the same thing with the accountants. Not everybody says they're a lawyer puts them in a S corp or a multiple series. Not every person says that. So, okay, if they didn't plan on that, how are they moving right now? So, S corps, multiple series, LLCs, holding companies. Like, we get so many questions that come to the vault for years now asking about. And it's so funny how many people are slick on the public side and they'll say they want to get in trustee training, but they have one entity owning multiple entities right now. Like, to be completely honest, from a just off the head statistical perspective, out of the hundreds and thousands of people that listen, literally 60% of them plus are already in that position and they don't want to say it. Another 40% are probably literally, like, another 30% are probably like they're thinking about doing it because there's not a lot of entrepreneurs in the states, so, or just all over. Like, there's definitely not a lot of entrepreneurs compared to employees. There's a lot of employees. So for the ones that get it, they're like, man, I can put myself in a different position. And so they understand it. And so this is an interesting thing to see that some people will take the time to actually get the right accountant, the right lawyer. And it's so interesting because it's interesting to see, like, okay, did you ask us for a lawyer or did you already have one? And that's where so many people, like, they just don't see, like, wow, I can go get someone on my own. You have to. It's imperative. It's imperative to build that relationship. So we're going to see in the next coming years what trustees, what business owners want to put themselves in the right position. This is the common day, everyday public colloquial knowledge here. There's no differ from what you're going to learn in public school. Oh, get an S corp. Be open to getting any entity. Ladies and gentlemen, do you think there's certain bloodlines and families that don't deal with those type of conversations? Why? Because their family already set them up in a trust fund. See, do you see how simple that message is? So they already had them in that. Why wouldn't you do that? That's called proper estate planning. But there's a different type of amount of trust, like, simple as that. But we're going over the S corps the multiple series LLCs and the holding companies today. Because this is what we get 60 to 80% of our time answering on the public side. Because so many people, when they walk into the public, that's what they're looking at. Think about checking off on their list of having it as an entity that they're engaging with. And it's like, okay, not everybody uses those right there, but okay. So you're right. A lot of people are not using those entities for a good reason. So how did your lawyer slick you out of it? How did your accountant slick you out of it? Oh man, I just thought this was the right position, because I just it was gonna make it separate from me. Really? Who owns it? Think about it. This is how they try to trick people out of messing with even C corps. They'll be like, "Well, see, in a C corp, the owners are the shareholders." Okay, so that took you out of position because you're the board of director. Oh, okay. Yeah, that sucks. You can only make $1 a year now, like all the rest of the greats. You make $1 a year and let the company, take off fringe benefits. What the company has to offer to you on the public side. You think you can't get a cup of coffee and a donut every day? You can get a lot more than that. But you got to look into those publications. You got to contact and be in contact with the right people. Because then think about it. There's so many entities on both sides of the table, public and private. Y'all know the game. S corps and multiple series LLCs and holding companies. These are different type of companies right here. People walk into these traps every day. And we're not giving a sway of opinion. It's no advice. Everybody that listens to the vote knows that, whether disclaimers in there or not. It's no advice. It's never been any advice. People know that. We've already made that clear. This is what we talk about in the private sector. It's a conversation to say this is what's going on in the private. We're talking about and laughing at these entities. S corps. Who runs around in an S corp? You know how many people are listening right now that are running around in an S corp? Oh, because my accountant told me to get in an S corp. And yeah, what type of tax form you file? Is the S corp even filed on a separate tax form than your personal 1040? Like seriously, and none of them are like not a lot of them are like yes. A lot of them are like no. I just got it as a different entity, whatever they want to call it. It's like sure, you're up the river of denial, and that's not any truth in that. So when we move forward with okay, what's the proper position? Because it's all about position. It's like if you're going to be on the chessboard, what position are you going to be? You going to be a rookie, a rook? Are you going to be a pawn? Are you going to be a knight? Are you going to be a king or a queen? Like you have to pick your position. And clearly, these are inferior positions, but these are entities people get walked into on a daily basis. Like, wow, how many lawyers or accountants did you even interview before you walked into that? But a lot of times, people are dealing with people from a state like Louisiana. We got people that contacted us in the past week from Louisiana. Shout out to Louisiana. So they coming in from Louisiana, and we've had yeah, we're gonna leave it at that. So trustees in Atlanta, everybody that knows Atlanta, I mean, excuse, not Atlanta, Louisiana. It's like, think about it. That's not one of the fun states to be in is Louisiana. Why? Because the laws are different than pretty much any other jurisdiction in the states. They don't have counties. Most states have counties. They have parishes. It's a different type of jurisdiction. So when you go over there, you're like, oh man, the laws are different. It's like, yeah, you have to actually really invest some time then actually trying to find a lawyer for that state. Because why would you not? Why would you not like say, all right, I need to find somebody that knows the contract law in this particular area? And that's just being attorney at fact, or you being a what people try to say in position of control. Especially for these type of things. People are getting put in these type of entities in these type of states. Louisiana. You know how hard it is to operate in Louisiana? Why would you do that? I mean, think about it. I mean, the state is a civil state. It's like, oh my gosh, they're not even common law. These people, man, you got to have someone on the inside down there. And that's just being honest. It's not it hasn't been a favorable state to any trustees or entrepreneurs that we've dealt with in the past. And that's maybe why you see a lack of investment in that state, possibly, or not enough internal growth. Because when you look at these states sometimes and you see the objectivity of what is the state really producing, and we see a lot coming from that particular area, but you know, it's not big and booming industrial city like a major city like LA, a New York, a Chicago. Like New Orleans is hot, but it's definitely not a Chicago. Like Chicago has a lot of money there. And you can count these things out in statistics. You guys can look at this data. Point being is when you see, okay, think about the cryptocurrencies. All of them are held in trust. None of them are held and some of them are held in LLCs, but most of them are held in trust. Why? Because they understand the proposition. They have foundation. They're saying they're trying to do things with full accountability on their ledgering. Bottom line, this is the difference between the public and the private. The private is popped up in front of people's face with the crypto, and they're still asking questions of whether they should be invested. It's the proper ledger keeping, but at the same time, these things are supposed to be private. Then they're not. What do you think? You think as a retail trader, you're going to move the bank? The bank's called the money, the market maker. They're making the market. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give everybody short, long, and skinny. Whenever you want to know about the entity, you're going to go straight to irs.gov or whatever that website is. Why? Because this is the website that's going to tell you about the entities. If you don't go here, how are you going to know which tax form to fill out if you're dealing with taxes? That's who assesses taxes, IRS. So you would go to their website and type in business structures. They're going to tell you about the entities and they're going to tell you about how to file it. It's just that simple. There's no lawyer or accountant that can tell you that they can't file those documents in at any time. And that's just the bottom line. So that's just to get, people go to call to get the EINs for these entities. Okay, you can call, you can apply. They have multiple ways you can do it. Some people say, well, I don't know the difference. Well, what is a lawyer going to tell you or accountant going to tell you that the IRS website is not going to tell you? Oh, they're going to tell me about the each specific entity. Because when you go to the website, you can see, well, this is what entities file this form, and this is what entities file that form. It's real simple. Oh, is that simple? Yeah, I mean, they're actually going to tell you pretty much on the first or second page. And you can actually call them. But oh, no, no. I had to drop 1,700 to my lawyer. No, no, no. I had to drop 1,300 to my lawyer. No, no, no. I dropped about 2,700 to my lawyer. That sounds about right for across the states to get these so-called multiple LLCs, these holding companies, these S corps up. 750. Okay. No, no, no. I got mine done for $500. So what's the difference between you and the $2,700 person? What about the $1,300 person? I got mine open for $300. Okay. So you got it for the low low. Once again, these are contracts. We already know that. So, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to type into the chat if you have any of these entities and type in what state you're calling in from and listening. It's always a pleasure to hear what state people are from. But long story short is these are things you can go learn publicly. And that's the issue. Is are you learning and studying? I guess some people say, "Oh, Trust Christian, you're not giving us enough study. We go through what you're giving us." Sure you are. We're going through it with light speed, Trust Christian. Sure you are. You're going through it with light speed, right? So, how many people are coming to us with the private acquisition of knowledge? Because once you're in the private, you're pretty much moving where you're doing innovative new ideas. You're doing your family ideas. You're creating. Some people want to go to the back to school route. All we can tell you is from the bottom of our heart, going back to school is the public route. That's the facts. Some of you all might not know who the greatest asset managers are. But if African indigenous descent people need any type of inspiration, we can tell you right now, they're not operating out of S Corps, multiple series LLCs, or holding companies. None of the greats are. They're utilizing basic entities, whether it's a C or L or private or that's that. They're not using all these things. Why? Because they understand asset protection comes from asset separation. Bottom line, period. And they're practicing that. We can make our moves right now, business wise. You can learn this by, you know, think about it. You think some of the I'll share this much. When you look at some of the greats, they will tell you they know tax law better than anybody. But we had even sat down with a trustee this past week for lunch, and they said that they were literally great study the public law. We were like, why? Why do you need to do that? That's what you hire an attorney for. You hire an attorney to know the public law, whether it's for that state or whatever. So they're like, wow, thanks for that relief. Of course, you're about to rack your brain doing what? You want to know what this is? You're not asking enough questions. You're thinking it, overthinking it. You're not asking enough questions. The opportunities you have to ask questions to a so-called master is not a master Yoshi of anything. It's a student of the game. You know what I mean? That's just the bottom line. It's the student of the game. It's someone that says we're the ones, just like our mentors who were African indigenous descent, who gave us the information, that sat there and said you can live it too. It's a lifestyle. But oh no, no. So many people thought this was going to be a joyride. So let's go ahead and give you the failure rate of what the failures think about too on the public side. They're thinking about not doing the work for this generation. They're not willing to sacrifice themselves. But little did we all know, you can have a policy for $1 million or $2 million just to give to each kid or kid, and you're good. Most people just want to start out with $1 million from their mother, father, like that. Especially at 18, they were like, look, at 18 years old, just give me $1 million, I'll be happy. Some people will be happy with that, and they said they could build a successful life at 18. Some people say, oh no, they will blow it. Hey, look, rather to take the guts for glory at 18 than to be stuck waiting for it at 55. Talking about, oh, I got to retire on $1 million. And guess what? That dream went to 65. And now that dream went to 75. And you all can see how the narrative is going. Off of what that $500 used to get you back in the day in America. And you all know what the inflation rate and all that stuff, it really is real. The cost of everything has gone up. It's called the cost of living. Why? Because the cost of economic power has gone up. The lifestyles that people enjoy are powered by manual labor, or at least they were up until February, or March, or April, or May, or June, or July, and we're still in this mode of consciousness for the world. What if it went into a 4-year sleep? A 4-year slumber definitely wipes out half the population. Why wouldn't it? They're not going to produce enough food for the free eaters. They already have food shortages right now, ladies and gentlemen. People don't want to believe this. Oh no, they don't have the food shortage. What do you mean there's no food shortage? Do you know what California is called? I'm sorry you haven't traveled. It's called the food desert. There's many places in the states that are called food deserts. They don't have grocery stores. Oh no, did you not hear that? They don't have grocery stores like big, huge chains because they're food deserts. The game is serious right now, ladies and gentlemen. We see that it went past the infamous 4 months. People say, oh no, is this history repeating itself? Look, ladies and gentlemen, if you want history to repeat itself, you can do what history did. Or if you don't want it to repeat itself, you can do something different. So we're going to bring the big guns now, from now on, to the party for all the Vault listeners. We're going to make sure that we bring you all a quality story on Sunday. We're working on someone for Sunday. It's going to be a good episode. We're going to bring something on Sunday. And then as well, we're going to possibly bring on some real estate stuff. We actually had someone ask us about the real estate in the previous episode. And it was so funny because we were like, okay, we actually should listen to this person and actually bring out our real estate person because they're on the public side. Our real estate person is actually on the public side. So we'll bring them out And we're actually going to do our best to bring an interview with them. So that's the best part about that. You said the real estate course. There was someone that listened on a previous episode that said they wanted to hear about the real estate course, and we were like, okay, because even in these entities, people still hold real estate. So we're gonna definitely do our best to bring that person on because they're the real estate mentor. So you all get the best part, and the price is great for their mentorship, and we really appreciate what they bring to the table. It's someone you can look up publicly and all that good stuff. So we're really excited about that relationship with the mentor there, and bring them on as an interview. Yeah, so you all can really get the real deal. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we have no issue with talking about these entities because people come over and they say they got these entities set up in different states. Oh, they're doing Delaware Corp still. We had someone come recently with a Delaware Corp. Like, give us a break, man. You guys know what you're doing. You're failing yourself. These guys are feeling unprotected. Everybody's shaking but their hands by their hip because they're trying to pull a trigger. And it's like, you're right. You didn't pull a trigger. That's what's going on. You guys, if you understand business, you're never going to put yourself in a position where you're liable. Why? Because it's own nothing, control everything. You're not supposed to own it. You can't own anything. It's that simple. You're breaking spiritual laws. People know this. And they're like, well, I don't know how to get around it. It's called study. Show thyself approved. You either get the consultation, but think about it. This is where the lawyers and accountants say, oh yeah, if you get this type of entity, it'll separate it from you. You won't be a part of the thing. You won't be the owner. And now they're giving you all these fancy titles called founder and CEO. And what else they calling you out here nowadays? Your founders, your CEOs, you're the, who knows? They got all these fancy terms that they want to call themselves in the tech world nowadays with the businesses that they're in, doing good and well. They literally, who started the company? You did, right? Where's all the money supposed to be going? Maybe not to you. Why? Because the VC funded it. And guess what? When the VC funds your business, they're not going to let you walk around with no S Corp or C Corp or LLC. They're going to say, we're going to move this into a position of more of a C Corp. We're going to have the shares properly distributed, and we're going to make sure that this is run properly. Why? Because we're investing in you as a management team to get the job done. We need to know what are your KPIs, what are your key performance indicators, and we need to know when you're going to have them done. That's called a quarterly report. Oh no, it was too deep. Exactly. So how are these S Corps a separate entity from yourself? Think about it. In the C Corp, they even got you in a position of manager. Are you a board member or a manager? That's what they call you. What about the C Corp? I mean the LLC. Oh, it's the are you a member or a manager? Which one are you? I'm the member. Okay, that says ownership on the public side. That's what they say. So are you the manager or the member? Well, I gotta go with the manager because I know now that something so subtle makes a big difference. It's how Steve Jobs gets paid $1. It's how Roy Seabag gets paid $1. It's how Donald Trump doesn't have to show you his tax returns because he only makes $1. He doesn't even accept money from the presidency. Supposedly, we haven't verified that actual from the vault, but we've heard that that's the case. And so when you think about that, think about how you defer income. Oh wow, I don't want that. Wow, you fell back into nature. So many people, I want to get control of my name. It's a trademark. How is your name in commerce if the money's not coming to you? Oh no, right. So right, that's how business is done on the private side. People say, oh, I'm getting what's coming to me. You're right. And that's what you're going to get hit with the Slayer tax for. That's why it's a pass-through. So let's just go ahead there. S Corp, C Corp. And we got these different type of entities. How many of you all in the chat right now have actual S Corp? If you're in the chat. How many people in the public have multiple series LLCs, and how many people have holding companies that are live on the chat? Do you have a holding company, a S Corp, or a multiple series LLC? I mean, these are entities that people have in the world that are like seriously They're like, dude, I need to change it. And I'm like, okay, well, when are you gonna do that? And they literally are like in their thoughts about this. This is multiple questions every single week. This has been happening for 4 to 5 years of straight, 6 years of straight trustee training, where people are literally coming through and they're asking questions and they're literally in a position where they're they're like, dude, I gotta change this. It's like, exactly, no one in the private is using these entities. Like, we understand that position is very, it's about positioning. So why put ourselves in that position? It's like, man, I gotta invest in my education. So here we go, we're talking to a trustee. They made us laugh today, and we're gonna share the story that we laughed with them about. And it was basically about how much money you pay on the private side to get the private education compared to the public education. Now in the public education, we already know it's free. That's why it's public. It's got to be free. Why? Because on the public side, it's welfare. It's public side. That's what it is. On the private side, you actually have to pay. So the private side, we're going to add up a new course that we just came up with that was 3,500. And this isn't even our course. This is a mentor's course for 3 days. And their course is $3,500. And so we said, okay, think about that. Their course for 3 days, 9 hours a day, or 8 hours a day, is literally $3,500. And I was like, that is so dirt cheap. This is like ex banker. This is like, I mean, dude, they had it all. To be completely honest, they told us about watches that we admire. We know watches that you're supposed to sit in business meetings with. It doesn't always have to be the Rolex. So, is we're talking about ex bank. I mean, this guy's very sophisticated. You know, very sophisticated when it comes to business, and so they're not using all these different type of entities. They would warn us about these entities. They would say, "What are you doing?" And so that's the private sector just coming through trustee training. We made that available to some trustees because we were like, we wanted to do anything with our mentors. Bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, you guys are sitting on the public side wondering, man, I don't know what trustee training is. Should I really get in? It's like, ladies and gentlemen, on the private side, we're having a party where people are connecting and doing business. It takes a while to build a community. The leader has been working on that, and so it's been getting done. You build a community. Sometimes some communities don't stay together. Sometimes communities do. But in the private sector, you traditionally see people stick together a lot more because they're in it together. Traditionally, if you can partner with another family or a community, it's easier to keep the wealth going. Whereas if it's a single family, then you're isolated. You're not really working with other families in the private. It's like, okay, you go to the private now, you got this huge estate, and who's going to carry on that property for the next generation? Do your children want to really be on that property and working at home for the next generation? And that's critical. So having your family work at that particular property and the next generation is going to be critical. For so many people that are working at home, they want their children to get ready to work. They're going to be, man, they're going to be like, man, my kid became 10 overnight. My kid became 20 overnight. And guess what? They left home and they're struggling. Wow, that's the recurring theme in middle class and poor people environments. Cool. So how are they going to get out of that? They're going to make it a point to say, we're going to make sure our children can work from home as well. You have to be able to put them in that technological mindset right now. Because why? Once again, they're going to be 10 overnight. They're going to be 20 overnight. Bottom line, we know this, ladies and gentlemen. For the people that have children and they're seeing their children grow, they're seeing it. For the ones that don't, it's like an abstract thought. It's like, really, I don't know how fast going to 10 to 20 is. It's like, yeah, but when you're a parent, you're feeding it every day and you're making sure that that child is being fed. Think about it. If you're working from home, that's what they're seeing. So if they don't do it, they literally just went against the family estate. They just left the family estate, which most poor and middle class people do. And then guess what? There's no money staying with the family estate. You got to teach them how to make money at home. You should be teaching them how to do websites, all type of stuff, coding. It's only 44 million African indigenous descent people in the United States. They have easy and ample opportunity to take over. How? Through business. You got to do business. People have to respect your business. The Chinese just don't have a billion people. They have good business skills too. And numbers and all mean everything. If that was the case, India would be on top of the United States. It's not. Who's on top of the United States economically? The United States supposedly has a cold right now. Some of the engines are still firing. And the world is still in a sneeze. If you're watching world news, you can see that the world has taken a sneeze like the States took a sneeze. Ladies and gentlemen, see, at the vault, we're going to tell y'all the truth. The truth is, it's a wealth transfer going on right now, ladies and gentlemen. We're sorry we had to break it to you this way. There's a wealth transfer going on. See, somebody's losing. What do you mean no one's losing? Look at the markets. People aren't working. Guess who hemmed and hawed first? The so-called newbie entrepreneurs. They're first generation. These are the baby boomers. These are the people over 35, 45 years old. They started a business later on. They were employees first. And now they're saying, oh man, I don't want to have a business in the States. It's taxed so how much the taxes are crazy. I can't really even retire. My business just went under because of this so-called sneeze right here. It went under because of a sneeze. Why? Because you weren't technologically sound. You didn't see the technological boom. Your business wasn't technologically equipped. Starbucks is. Just enough. Oh, we can't talk about their stock? Man, they just became bigger than Amazon to me if I look at them that way. Why? Because it's coffee. It's addictive. I mean, that's when you call for ages, but some people don't want to hold that for 25 to 50 years, just like their Amazon stock. The Amazon stock, people have held that for hundreds of dollars. We know people that held the Bitcoin for hundreds of dollars, and that's what happens. People are holding for the hundreds of dollars. They're not just, oh, I'm gonna get in on the thousands. Yeah, now you see how far your 1,000 goes in the States. Now you see how far your 100,000 goes in the States. And people, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing you learn in trustee training is how can you save a depreciating asset. It's a depreciating asset. You can't get ahead with those tools. You got to have more munchkins than a little bit. Trustees are asking these questions about, oh, what should I do? Should I have the LLC own the other LLCs? Okay, what's the point of anything that you're doing? This is something you have to take serious. This is something you have to say, okay, I'm gonna live what I hear the first time. Why? Because you don't know what can happen the second time. So we're focused on the first. The first consultation, the first all of that. And what does the first entail? Stating your need. What is your need? You have a need. And then people come and they say, okay, I have a need. And then we say, okay, now it's the time for value. What's the exchange of value? Time for money. That's what people are giving. Do you see how that model sucks? Right. So guess what? On the private side, we don't work for money. We work for the family estate. Some doofus asks you, oh, do you have the vehicle in the family trust? It's like, no, they didn't even ask that. They asked, do you have do you have the vehicle in your name? It's like, how are we going to say we live in it and we don't? And it's like, do you not understand certain things? Like, well, no, I don't. Okay, so are you going to invest in your private education? It's about your private education. Bottom line, you have to invest in it. So it's $3,500 for ex-banker type mindset. We got him in the private. That was just an awesome play right there. So we go there. Okay, let's just go on to, do we want to go there? Trustee training? Okay, we'll go there. Trustee training. So trustee training, a lot of times people, we'll go industry. Okay, so trustee training, it can range from as low as 3,000, 5,000, 15,000, 25,000. Private trustee training, and then you can see a jump from there to, based off of net worth, talking $3 to $5 million. And there are people literally, we know, that are literally right with us in peership, and they'll ask you maybe 2 or 3 questions. Are you $2 to $3 million liquid at this point, or are you even $2 million? They'll kind of ask those type of questions. Are you $2 million liquid? That means cash. If you're, they're like, if you're not answering these questions, they're done. Literally, like, they literally notice these guys are getting contracts on the private side, so they don't. It doesn't matter what happens on the public side. It's like, okay, they're not too worried about getting somebody to say, oh, I need to have this level of information, and not be like giving it to the right people. And they feel that way. These guys have always felt that way. So when we get into private trusteeship, we sat in front of some meetings. See,
One thing you got to know about Trust Christian is he's a lion. We don't allow people to sit around us and spew out the BS. See, when you're in the public, you have to speak the truth, no matter where you are. See, that's who we roll with. See, we don't hang with the weaklings. There are people that are posting videos right now of people passing. That's not an opportune time to post pictures and videos. And this is what we talk about once again in the what? In the private. We're not posting those things on the internet. It's business, it's not personal. You got to make sure you have your pieces intact. Trust Christian not going to let people sit around and say, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Well, let's bring 5 other lawyers or accountants in the room. Are they all going to say the same thing? No, they're not. Right. So which opinion is right? Well, let's just go ahead and interview 3 to 5. We pick the group consensus of all what these dips have said, and we move forward from there. It's a group consensus. They sound like you have an interview. Some people say, I don't have the interview questions, Trust Christian. That's a good thing. Maybe we should say should contact us for trustee training, or you do some searching and you start searching for content that allows you to go to your industry, okay? And you go to your industry and it says what you should be asking in your industry, the questions you should be answering. What are you doing? How many units are you producing? Are you selling products, or these type of questions? And when you go to your lawyer or your accountant, you're asking them for sure. Are they aggressive? Why not? It's business, not personal, ladies and gentlemen. So many people have gotten their money stolen from them. They got the text messages. We've seen this, ladies and gentlemen. We've seen this. Trustees, people in general, are afraid to sue people. Why not? Take them to court. They shouldn't have took money from you. Yes, you got to have the confidence to take them to court. It's interesting to see where the world is right now in 2020. And you all that are listening, you all know that you got to make a move. And the game goes to Speedy Gonzalez. It goes to the fast. It goes to the strong. And we're going to get strong by doing something every day, of course, but it's definitely going to go to the fast, ladies and gentlemen. So when we look at this right now, ladies and gentlemen, from the fast perspective, let's really look at that. Are you moving out of a position today or tomorrow? Or are you slacking, as we call it? See, this is called slacking. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't need to worry about us on the private side and when are we going to get it right. The question is, you're the odd man out. You're the family member that can't help us. You're the limited liability. You're the multiple LLC. You're the S Corp. You're the liability of the family right now. Really? The rest of us are in the proper position. We own nothing, control everything. You the one that want to have pass-throughs. You didn't even consult the family manager. Oh yeah, we have a family managing group, a family management team. We consult with each other. That's what it is. It's a checks and balances. Some people are the leaders though. In a lot of families, you have to take the leadership. A lot of people come, man, what about my family? Should I like go back for them or whatever? It's like, that's on you. See, we're in the public now. You know, the trustees, they know the softer side of the vault as opposed to, the more direct. Because when we talk about leadership, that's what we're talking about. Knowing how to be a leader and get people to do things when you need them to do it, not when they want to do it. Oh no, that's exactly what it is. So, are you all ready to play ball? Are you all ready to make it? Are you ready to really take your family's life into your hands. Because this is something we brought up on trustee training this past week, which was, are you really looking to be the trustee of your family? Because how are you looking to be the trustee of your family and you're not acting as a trustee right now? Literally, you're lying to yourself. That's the bottom line. And we're going to call out the fakers from the real shakers. There are shakers that are literally, we had a 22-year-old consultation the other day. What's up with everyone else? Some people want to take that as a badge of honor. Oh, you're 22 years old. That means you're sure lucky to have it at 22 years old. What does that mean? Are they going to do anything with it? Because there are some 22-year-olds that will eat your lunch. They're ready to eat your lunch in the private. These guys are going to study as hard as what I know we're studying right now. In the pandemic, they're putting in 30 hours of study or more. And that's no lie. 30 hours of study, 30 hours of work right now in the private. Easy for a young guy that would be in their 20s. We've had trustees come in at 19 years old. Of course they're coming in at 22 and these 21-year-olds, and they were on it. They were hungry, especially the ones that came out of pocket themselves. It was a bunch of them. And what about the rest of you guys? 22-year-olds have gone through and said we're going to make sure that we at least get something started for our family future, for our family legacy. And stop sitting around and playing with it. That's what they did. They stopped playing around with it. They jumped on it like they were greener than green. It was a go time. And it was a pleasure to work with those people at times. Because when you really see how so many younger people are they're like how I was when I was there. Oh, 22, 23. How many people around you are entrepreneurs? Yeah. How many people are around you that were entrepreneurs? The ones that are older, you all know, at 22, 23, 19, and you're still putting in the work. You're putting in the work 10 years later, 12 years later, 15 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later. I mean, these are people that they took the time to keep plowing away. And that's where the game is at right now. It's long term, not short term. We heard the mentor say it for so many years. You have to be long term minded, not short term. Bottom line, you're right on time. This is Trust Christian in the Vault. Shout out where you listening from. Put into the chat where you listening from. Any questions, comments, or challenges on the chat? Definitely appreciate all the questions or comments. Any of them. Feel free to type in where you listening from, because everybody's name is wild. People be having some wild names, so it's just easier to let us know where you listening from. DeSoto, Texas. Shout out to DeSoto, Texas. DeSoto, Texas is still blowing up. Whether you all know it or not, DeSoto, Texas is blowing up. It's a popping area. Business is thriving over there, and people don't even know it. Okay. We got some other ones. The Bronx. Where we go? In New York, going through gentrification. See how we said New York is going through gentrification? It's not just the city, it's the state, New York. And we're going to keep going. Appreciate you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Definitely shout out to Virginia. Definitely appreciate you for tuning in live or tuning in to replay. We got a good question in the chat. We'll definitely give it worthy of its merit. It says, what is an unincorporated trust? Well, it's not incorporated. It says it's unincorporated. And this is where, we even talked to a trustee the other day who talked to a lawyer. And he's like, hey, he told the lawyer to go call the IRS and ask, is what he was talking about legal? So they went and did it, and the lawyer came back and said, yeah, they told us legal, but he was like, but they told you they wouldn't tell you how to set it up. And he was like, yeah. And I was just listening to the conversation. It was just interesting to hear. Those are the conversations that we hear on the private side that, people, the lawyer doesn't know what the lawyer doesn't know, but you can get them to check and you can get them to verify, because it's you getting them to do what you need them to do when you need them to do it. It's business, not personal. That's the difference. See, All the guys over the internet. Not all, I mean, we're not gonna say everybody, because of course we have mentors. There's a few public ones that are public, and they're doing the public thing. But when it comes to the private, none of the private are out in the public. Bottom line. Shout out to Atlanta, Georgia. Definitely Atlanta's popping. Their market's wide open. People are that's literally a city that has not shut down. It's one of those cities like you wish right now it was like a Miami, but it's not. You wish it was like a LA starting up. You wish it was like a New York trying to move around with the whole gig culture. I mean, these are markets that have been like, ladies and gentlemen, think about, okay, what if 30% of the workforce left the market? Just 30. Guess what it did? And those jobs are never coming back. You can see, this is where when you get into some type of battle, some people want to see if they can starve out their opponent. Once again, there's a food shortage. Of course they can starve out their opponent. Who has food stored? If you don't have food stored, so we're going to go into where a lot of people recently have contacted the Vault about. Let's go into everybody's greatest rapper's rapper with the gold right now. Gold has surpassed $2,000 at an all-time high, and we are looking at it before our eyes. This is called market what? Market manipulation. This is all the markets that you see that say we're going to go into what's considered the illegal safe haven. How is it the illegal safe haven? Well, for some odd reason, did you set the price of it? No, but you definitely have to pay market price for what's dictated over that was considered paper commercial markets. Oh wow, right. Wow. How much control do you have over that market? Only when you have it do you have control. Now, let's go into the conversation we had. We have these conversations daily because we live this. Trustee training is going on daily with other trustees because they get consultation. So they say, well, the consultations that they're coming with nowadays about trustee training is, can we or can we not do this? Of course you can. Of course you can. This is not a lot of information. This is just putting yourself in a leadership position of actually reading a few scripts and calling a few shots over the family estate. It's real simple. There's trustees every day getting consultations. You're a trustee of your family estate already, if you know it or not. Maybe you're just doing it on the public side instead of the private side. But that's why we did trustee training, is because we addressed the need that the mentors weren't addressing. A lot of these guys don't give a rip about educating anybody that's not making under $250,000, making over $250,000. That's bottom line. Why would they even talk to you? And then even some of them still, they're gonna vet you. Most of our mentors, they won't even do business with you unless they do a background check on you. So you already know that's a minimum of a few days or however long for them to even see if they want to even know if you got a criminal record. These guys want to know who they're dealing with right from the beginning. These guys have no problem with hiring private investigators. They have no problem with doing that. They have no problem with hiring a business person to see what's the competitive advantage on your business and for them to do investigative reporting on your business, going to see what are the press clippings of your business. That's what they're going to do. Shout out to Dallas. Dallas is growing as well. It's always been a thriving market for at least a good long time now. It's not going anywhere. Is Dallas open right now? I think we have a mentor that's telling us Dallas is open as well. Very open in the States, really kicking butt. But we don't know. We haven't been there in some weeks. So what about Detroit? Is Detroit open right now? How's Atlanta, Detroit looking right now? Because Detroit is definitely, those one of those states. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll put a challenge out in history for our African indigenous descent brothers and sisters. So you all know that Detroit is in Michigan, and they also have Flint, Michigan. It's up to you to go in there and create $1 billion by cleaning up the sanitation area. We'll give you $1 billion idea today, ladies and gentlemen, from the vault. And that's basically you create a sanitation company that pretty much goes and does roll-ups right there in that area. And ladies and gentlemen, for all you bond head holders, these promissory note holders, what do you think you're doing when you do business with the municipality? You're doing business with the bondholders of the city. So for you to, say that you're not going to do it for your family, that's what it comes down to. Somebody's not going to take the call because they don't feel that it's worthy of their time. Well, we just said $1 billion is, slightly worth your time. 1 billion at least in the Flint and the Detroit area for cleaning up sanitation. Period. You go in there and you get those bonds working and you move the right way, you literally can create an empire just off of that little two small areas. Think about that. That's $1 billion project over a small area. That's not a whole state. So when you get to the level of a state, you can see the type of money you're into. And you can do that in multiple areas because they're telling you they have bad water. How come no one has stepped up? Oh, well, Trust Christian, why haven't you done it? Well, guess what? That means now we have to dedicate time to that trust. We're not in Detroit. It's supposed to come from within. So the ones that are in Detroit, they can become a part of a municipality trust that goes in and says we're going to invest in having better sanitation in the community. Well, guess what? You're in the business environment. You don't have to always use your own money. It's OPM. You think people don't want to invest in funds for that? You're sadly mistaken. On the private side, people are funding projects like that. On the public side, people are getting projects funded like that. They're getting projects that are funded that say, we want to clean up the sanitation area for this area. And that means you get to manage $1 billion asset. That's easy. But guess what? Well, Trust Christian, why don't you do it? Because I'm not in Detroit. And neither do I want to be in Detroit. It's not hot enough. And that's the blame mentality. Is, oh, why don't you do it, Trust Christian? It's like, look, if we're not in Detroit, we're probably not giving unless we're in that environment or we want to do that. The people that are there, this is for them that say, okay, how do I really make this happen? You have to be in a position of own nothing, control everything. Now you could, these so-called bonds that people are getting and all this other stuff, you can do that. But how many people are doing that? Because they don't know that they don't know. And so now you know. And it's incumbent on you to go back and listen to the episode and see what are these different things. Why? Because it's important for us to educate ourselves with basically what we were denied on the public side, which was a financial education. When you're denied a financial education, you're denied like the fourth quarter of your brain. It's like, okay, it's 4 quarters to a game or a sport. Sometimes it's like, okay, there's 4 parts to your brain. You got your left, your right, your front, your back. These are like different parts. They control different parts of your brain. Even the 2 sides, they got 2 sides. So these are like different type of thought processes. Like business is not personal. We can separate and distinguish these things. So we're separating and distinguishing these things. What's business and what's personal? Let's get it, ladies and gentlemen. It's game time. What do we tell you? It's a wealth transfer going on. For all you all that don't want to go to sleep, you don't need to go to sleep no more. You probably been sleeping and taking nice naps, getting nice sleep on for the past 3 to 4 to 5 months. And now your life has changed. Oh, life has changed. You got to have the people that come after this, and they're going to be like, oh man, poor woe is me. And then you're going to have the ones that come after this and be like, man, that was that time I was studying. I found out that I had to learn a lot of stuff. Oh man, that was that time I started that business. Oh man, that was that time. Yeah, that was that time. And now is that time for you. Oh yeah. It's no rules. How do I know if I'm getting enough sleep? Don't worry about it. You'll get it. Take a nap. Oh man, I didn't know that. Right. You can take a nap. Because you're not working for money. You're making money make money. And that's an arduous task. Because money doesn't think. Money doesn't have an emotion. Money is a piece of paper that you have respect and objectivity for. This is the way business is done. See, ladies and gentlemen, we would almost say we would never accept another donation or any type of capital from anybody and do it for people that listen to us that are not technically free from behind bars. There are people that are behind bars that listen to us and have businesses in jail. I mean, how does somebody have businesses in jail? And people on the outside don't have businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, in life, there's a thing called an embarrassing moment. It's an embarrassing moment. People that are in jail listen to the vault on YouTube and literally have 3 to 5 businesses and saying, look, yeah, it's just a matter of time before I get out of here. And you say the vault should deal with you all on the outside that may not want to invest the amount that we talked about, whether it's 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 25,000. Like we say, after 25,000, you start getting to some people that are like, they're going to hit you based off of like certain liabilities, certain things about how much money you're making and stuff. They're going to hit you based off of that. And then you could jump easily to the $1,000,000, and they just won't touch you. They won't deal with you as a group because you're not in a certain income bracket. There's business that has to be done. You have to show numbers. They want to see numbers at least. And we think pretty much on the private side, they're showing numbers. And we're going to make it a point to be able to show numbers. You have to be able to do that. If you're not able to show assets under management, then that's when you're obviously not showing up. And so that's how you know the real from the fake. And so that's why we're never going to stick our head and say, oh, wow, woe is us, look at us. In a bad way, we're going to say we're the ones that worked our way here. So we can work our way and earn our way to the $1,000,000,000 once again in Flint and Detroit. You can work your way there. Somebody said Dallas is open. That is amazing. Dallas is open. That's all you need to say. See, it's not much to say. And for all the ones that are living in hiding, for their family and friends, wonder should they go out and make their business bill right now? There are more deals getting closed right now. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the most amazing. Because this is the beginning of a loser's wave. See, the loser, they're going to lose. They're going to get wiped out by a wave. Remember that. This is where the winners, we win. We thrive. It's what we call take back our rightful place. How do you do that? By doing business. It's not personal. You gave up yourself. You sacrificed this generation with us. Are you going to sacrifice yourself for this generation? Or are you going to say, oh, I must see how many people come to the vault over 35 years old to 75 years old, literally say, I'm not going to give the business to my kids. I'm going to give it to my grandkids. That's literally what they say. There are people, you don't even know how many families come to the vault and they're sitting on an asset and they just don't give it away to the proper position. Why? Because they're so ignorant of the law and they're old. They're over 65 and they're old. They're over 55 and they're old. And they're caught up in their ways. And their children that are 45 and 35 plus, they're about to inherit a goddamn liability. And they know this. And they're upset. And that's why they're like, Mom and Dad, that's why I bought you on the phone. And guess what? They still may not do it. Interesting. And then you get the parents on the phone and they still are like clues about what the hell is going on here. You can literally, we've had recently groups of families come on. And what is the result? It doesn't matter. But the result of part of the conversation is that these families are literally saying, look, we don't know the proper position to be in. Okay, but once you hit a proper position, you don't have any questions? Some of them do. A group of 5, maybe 1 has questions. That's because they have a business. Out of 5 family members, 6 family members on the phone, you literally will have 1 true entrepreneur. They're like a dentist. That person was probably like a dentist or a doctor from that conversation. And it's just like, really? What's going on here? So the rest of you guys are high paid employees. Okay. And that's what we see. And ladies and gentlemen, you can't win being an employee. Sorry you didn't get the message. It's entrepreneurship, investorship. It's the business, not personal. And so that's the law that we live by right now. Oh man, you're in America. That's the easiest place to make money. That's the land of milk and honey. And you goddamn right. They sitting on over here. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give you a success story because the vault don't really like to share success stories, but this is an easy public success story. Public success story looks like this. Person gets a consultation. They come to the vault. We go through a few ideas. They end up starting a shoe company. Ladies and gentlemen, Master P, who's a great entrepreneur for the African indigenous descent community, has literally created a shoe company called Manyati. So he started a shoe company called Manyati. And then we had a trustee. This individual literally came through, got the consultation, and they went out and they started a shoe company, just like Master P. So not only did they go out and start a shoe company just like Master P, from the company that's an Italian leather shoe company, literally got the same contract like a Master P, and literally has sold shoes within the first 30 days for over $200. So how many of you all are doing that? Some people say, well, how many shoes do you sell? Okay, how many shoes did you sell this past month? They sold shoes. It wasn't 2 pair. It wasn't 3 pair. It's grown. It's like, wow. So you're putting your mind to it. You have to sell these shoes. That's great. And that's where we are nowadays. Think about it. The shoes over $200. So you ain't got to sell 1,000,000 pair. You sell 50,000 pair of shoes, you're over $1,000,000. What if she sell only 25,000 shoes? $500,000. 25,000 shoes. She could break that down each month. Bam, bam. I got to sell like 8 to 10 every day. 8 to 10 every day. 8 to 10 every day in a 30-day month? That's called hustling. You think these African indigenous descent women won't do that? You guys are lying to yourself. One of the strongest class and group of people is African indigenous descent women. They're definitely building businesses. They're definitely working out here. They have the labor hours to put into the market, and that's what they're doing. They're outworking many groups of people. But who's going to play ball? The African indigenous descent women. I'm not a woman, so I can't speak on their behalf. I would love to, but it's not my place. As a man, we stick to man affairs. But the African indigenous descent women, they putting up the snuff. They're the ones leading in fashion. They're the ones leading in makeup. They're leading in content. What are the men doing? Some of us are doing what we're supposed to be doing, like focusing on the finances of the family estate and getting the information and bringing home what people say is the bacon, instead of sitting at home letting their woman take care of them. Ooh, did we strike a nerve? It doesn't matter. Get up and get some money. Money is the stuff that we're talking over the airwave right now. But some people won't get that, huh? They won't get it. Oh no, Trust Christian, you would talk in certain ways and this, that, and the third. Okay, sure. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to level up. If you look at every day as a level up, you'll level up. We know we have a really, what we would say is loyal audience. A lot of people listen on the back end. But this particular episode is catered to the newcomers that talk about that S Corp, C Corp stuff. And just now at the end, wanted to give them more of the heart set of really what you're entailing as an entrepreneur investor. Like, this is not made for the weak. This isn't for the faint of heart. This is, we used to believe everybody could be an entrepreneur too. Wrong. For all you newbies that are the 22-year-old, oh, we know you're listening. The 22-year-old says, oh man, I'm the only entrepreneur around. Yeah, right. That's called move out of where you're at and get busy, or get busy where you're at and dominate where you're at. Oh, really? You got to dominate? Yes. Dominate. Let's see what's in the chat. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. This is how you know somebody's going to get cleaned up by the goddamn mop. And the floor is going to get ugly in the courtroom. It's one of the ones you can literally go to the bathroom. By the time you get back, their ass going to be mopped up in the courtroom. Straight up. They're going to be mopped up in the courtroom. Their lawyer's probably going to be some sissy. He's probably going to take an easy $3,500 out of his pocket if you're broke. You want to know how I know you broke? Because you type it into the chat saying that you have a foreign private family trust. Why you think that, ladies and gentlemen, it is hard pressed to get a trustee to come out in the public. Whether that's a troll or someone that's ignorant and needs trustee training, or they haven't learned trusteeship yet. Because trusteeship is not coming out, and even we don't even appreciate what was stated, because we just want to point out what goes on in the chat, where someone says, I have a foreign private family trust and it's in a C Corp LLC. Okay, well, guess what? Did you tell your lawyer that? Did your lawyer know that? Did your lawyer set that up for you? Well, we're sure you're comfortable with that position. Because if you set up that position, we would say trustee training is a must, whether it's from the vault or anywhere else. You might as well turn it over to a lawyer because you're already saying that you're dealing in different environments. You're saying you're in the private, and then you're saying, oh, we got a public corporation that or the trust looks like that in the public, and not only that, foreign LLCs, and hey, hey, that could be subjective too when we talk about that, and that's something that we talk about in trustee training as well as foreign LLCs, because you think about it, we sit on the phone with trustees or people that are getting consultation, and they say, oh well, if I do business in another state, don't I have to file that? And we say definitely encourage always to ask the lawyer when you're going into that new state, like, hey, do I need to file a foreign registration in this form, or can I just do business over here? And once you find that out, they'll let you know whether you need a foreign business registration or not. And it's pretty much a lot of states need it. So, it's something that's very important. And, it's just interesting to see how many people are not asking these questions. But this is where you have to grow a pair, men. For all the brothers, you have to grow a pair. You actually have to start commanding your universe. That's what it's really called. We're sorry if you haven't done that. Some of the women have commanded their universe. But the men, you got to command your universe. You got to pretty much say, at this point, I need this to get done. I need this to get done. I need this to get done. I need to get this done. And that's how it goes. How many people feel like they're in control? You want to know why you don't feel like you're in control? Because you own it, man. You fell into the trap of public education. You own something. So now you don't even feel like you own your life when you're not generating labor income. You're not focused on financial capital. You focused on labor capital. Oh, I'm going to go out there and work. I'm going to trade the sweat off my brow. Oh, really? Ladies and gentlemen, how many men are sitting down because they have manual labor jobs? Maybe some people aren't sitting down. Let's see what markets are wide open right now. San Antonio. Appreciate San Antonio. They're always popping. Florida, Dallas. So, once again, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to reach out to the vault. But once again, to know that there are brothers and sisters even that might be, in certain positions, and they say, we appreciate the knowledge, trust Christian, because we making it a point to set up our affairs right. And they doing it from a position of which most people would consider a liability. And these people are producing from sitting down. That's the interesting part, is to see how many brothers and sisters actually, that are being rehabbed through the YouTube. And it's just like, wow, that's so beautiful to see. It's just one of the most epic things that the vault has never let out of their heart, guys. We feel for y'all, because some of them in there are really generating capital for their families outside. And it's just like, wow, that's amazing. So we just appreciate everybody that tunes in live or listening to replay. Appreciate you all. Feel free to, contact the vault, Christian at Trust Christian, or, just feel free to type into the chat. If y'all want to let us know still where y'all listening from, that's always good. Texas is pressing people on the mask. That's interesting. That's interesting. They're definitely not enforcing that in Georgia and Florida for sure. There's been no major compliance at this point. They're like, look, we're letting people travel, but Florida, once you haven't visited for a week, anything can change within a week. Anything can change within any day nowadays. Think about how the market has been subjected to such buffoonery for this long. When you see that, you have to be an extra vigilant trustee and manager right now. You see the volatility is high. It's like the fear index is like, okay, so if the fear index is up, what are you going to do? The fear index is up. Are you a part of that fear cycle? No, but it's like, okay, so what type of mindset are you going to have towards the market right now? Are you having the market of, oh, wow, I can play long? Or, wow, the market is really short right now. It's really short and choppy. It's went down and gone up, so it's a different type of market right now, ladies and gentlemen. You all know that. Oakland, California. Always love out Oakland, California. Uh, we would tell you that we're not watching TV, but some trustees, when we go visit them, sometimes they have a TV on, and there's this series on Netflix, and It's a series that they have about these kids playing JUCO football, which is just just something on the mind because Oakland is a beautiful place, but they're doing a lot of gentrification, and that's really the reason why they're almost getting featured even on that show. Some counties in Northern Cali are taking what? Talking about mass violations. Okay, some counties in Northern California. That's interesting. So that means like San Francisco, I think it was like Millbrae or Milburn, something like that out there. They got quite a few places. Sonoma's out there, quite a few places up north that are like if they're not open, which is interesting. So you guys can see the public market is still up and off, but it's really not if you're on your game. We already know who's on their game. Quite a few of you all. So make it a point to move forward. Every day is precious right now. The game is literally a very important play right now in the states. You're literally we're in August, and it's just bottom line. You got to be playing to win. You got to be playing for keeps. It's the fourth quarter. Get ready to go into the fourth quarter for the rest of the year. There's no letting up right now. If we took off any days previous to this, there's no days off, and we understand that there's quite a few people that they're gonna understand, especially trustees that take that mindset and run with it. Like you have an ample opportunity when you're in the private sector and you're already up and running. Why wouldn't you start taking off as a trustee? And so as growing assets and assets under management. So that's where we're at with it. So we appreciate you all for tuning in live, listening to replay. Uh, we really want to talk about that private education, and even still, that private education gonna cost you less than $50,000 to $100,000. But we don't want to be cheap and tell you that, really it's really good, like 50 to 100K. Like as you grow, you'll see that, you'll be chopping it off as you grow. So it's not like you'll ever spend like 50 to 100K out of pocket unless you're like a high income earner of a quarter of a mil or not. But if you're under a quarter of a mil, just look at like your first year or two, you're probably looking at if you're talking about like max end, just lower end, you're talking like 30K. You're talking about like 15 to 30K for sure, like the first year. And then the second year, you're looking at another 15 to 30K. And by then, you should be a solid trustee because you've gotten some good education under your belt, whether it's even public school and just going through. Because even if you went through trustee training with the vault and then went through public school, you'll have a hell of a good base because we don't come at it from just a complete public lawyer, and so you always have an objective view that doesn't have a conflict of interest, which a lot of people are concerned about is conflict of interest. So we appreciate everybody listening live or tuning in replay. It's always good and pleasure to bring an episode to you all about what we talk about in the private, how we live in the private, what it's all about, because these are the conversations that we have. And as long as we can continue having these conversations, you'll be able to move. But just got to remember, the separator between us and the public sector, as far as private, is that we move. We get into the proposition relatively quickly. We're not going to allow, you know, any outside forces to be in control any longer because you understand superiority, and that's what true superiority is. Bottom line, it's being in the right position. So appreciate you all for tuning in live, listening.